Yeah, I don't think Mother knew about this.
Uncle Marvin was strangled by his own beard.
Yeah, you never saw it coming. You have found us. It's Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and ExtremeGenes.com. My name is Fisher. I'm your radio root sleuth on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. Boy, we got an eclectic thing going on today. First of all, later on in the show, in about 10 minutes, we're going to talk to a guy in London, England. His name is Johnny Pearl, and he is the man behind a site David Allen Lambert and I have been talking about the last few months. It's called DNA Painter. And this is for people who are getting into their DNA research and finding matches. And it actually paints where certain ancestors' DNA comes in on your chromosomes. And it's kind of complicated, and it's maybe a little bit of a 404 thing. But if you're just getting into DNA and want to know about a free tool that's absolutely awesome for helping you track your ancestors, you're going to want to hear that segment. Then later in the show, I'm going to talk to a former neighbor of mine, a woman I grew up near, and I found out she's still with us. She's a World War I flying ace widow. Yeah, there are not a lot of World War I widows still with us, but Ginny Campbell is. And we're going to talk about her husband, America's first flying ace, Douglas Campbell, a little bit later on in the show. But right now, let's check in with David Allen Lambert. He is the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. David, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great. I was doing some spring cleaning the other day, and you won't believe what I found. Same day I get in the mail a photograph of Douglas Lambert, who we've talked about, the medal, the Purple Heart that I have. I found a letter that he wrote to his mother, a copy of it, that I got 5 years ago. Didn't even think about it. And it describes the badge that's in there, his core badge. Unbelievable. All on the same day.
And it was sent to her.
It was sent to her. He said, he mentioned it, that he was sending to his mother. I got this medal. I'm going to send it on to you. And obviously this is how it arrived. And there's also a photograph of him and his brother. They met in Italy. And it's amazing to think that I had all of this, and it ties into provenance even better.
That's incredible. And this is a guy, for people who aren't familiar with it, Douglas Lambert is a third cousin to David, and he was killed in World War II. And he recently obtained the Foot Locker and all this memorabilia, this ephemera from World War II. And now you have a letter that actually ties in some of this material, and one with a photograph of him. And I don't think there are any other photos out there that you've ever run into.
I haven't. In fact, I have the group picture, but there's no way to identify exactly who they are. They all kind of look alike.
Sure. Yeah,
sadly.
Yeah. And especially when you're dealing with a newspaper photo to try to compare it to, it's probably just a little bit fuzzy.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, our family history news is really interesting, and let the buyer beware. I think that a story on Extreme Genes about the 5 family history scams to avoid is amazing. So I don't want to talk too much of it, but it talks about phony inheritance scams, your family history scam. You might remember years ago the Beatrice Bailey postcards we would get in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with that, in the 70s and 80s, there was this woman who'd send out little postcards saying, I've researched your family history, and you'd order this book for $50, $60, and it would come back. It was like a phone book with everybody with your surname in it. So imagine a phone book with all the Fishers in America in there. That's what I would have gotten. I never ordered one, but I know people who did. They were not happy.
And, of course, the other thing are genealogists with falsified credentials, and that brings to mind Gustav Anjou, who was a early 20th century fraudulent genealogist who would give you the most fascinating ancestry with no context to an original
You would
record.
think that this guy could have written some novels because he was that talented.
Well, sometimes your ancestors have an amazing background, or you might be Harvey Braden to find out that story about the horse thief. Well, it's true.
Yes.
But what's interesting about Harvey Fish is that he found an engraving of his ancestor swinging from the tree.
Yes, with another guy on the other side of the rope. They didn't even actually tie this rope off. It's just they put one horse thief on one side, one horse thief on the other, and hung both of them off both ends of the rope off the same branch.
Oh, I do like hanging with my friends, but that gives a different level of context I don't want to have.
Yeah.
Well, the other day we were taking the family out for breakfast, and we went to Cracker Barrel, which I'm sure many of the listeners have gone to. And as you know, on the walls there's all sorts of ephemera. We sat down in front of one, and my wife, who's not a genealogist, said, "Hey, that's my hometown. That's a diploma. Who is that?" So, of course, we take out our phones and we start Googling the name, and sure enough, found them in a matter of minutes. And I put this on Twitter on DL Genealogist. 70 people liked it, and so many people were like, "Guilty as charged." I do the same thing.
Really?
So, yeah.
So you go to Cracker Barrel and you start researching the stuff that's on the walls.
Mm-hmm. I think Cracker Barrel needs to team up with one of the genealogical search companies and have little cards on it. Guess who this is? Well, my blogger spotlight for this week is Amberly Beck, who has a blog, the GenealogyGirl.blog. And on it, she puts up a lot of 20th century photographs of her family. But what she does is she brings them to life, giving stories and perspectives, allowing a photograph that may just have a name to have an identity. So my hat's off to Amberly Beck, and take a peek at her blog. Of course, we know in a couple of years we'll be celebrating the 400th of the Mayflower, and I know many of our listeners may have Mayflower connections. And NEHCS has just published our first international guide to things going on in 2020, and it's called the American Ancestors Magazine Special Edition, Your Guide to the Mayflower 400th Anniversary. And you don't have to be an NEHCS member to get it. You can purchase it right from AmericanAncestors.org for the low price of $6.95. It's loaded with great articles, how to research your Mayflower ancestors, and all sorts of exciting tips and things that are going on in the next couple of years.
Boy, as a Mayflower descendant myself, and I know that there must be a lot of Mayflower descendants listening on WRKO in Boston on Extreme Genes, this is a great opportunity, I'm thinking. I'm really looking forward to getting out there in 2020 for the celebration. I think that is going to be an amazing experience.
Well, we'll have to hang together, but not like Harvey's family.
All right. Thanks so much, David. Great talking to you as always. And coming up next, we're going to talk to a guy in London who created a website that's created quite a buzz in the genealogical world for people who are into their DNA. This guy is going to explain how he created this, why, and what you can do with it. Johnny Pearl talks DNApainter.com coming up next on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Legacy Tree Genealogist is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've worked with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476 or register online to get a free estimate. Right now, you can save up to $100 on professional genealogy research. But hurry, this offer expires at the end of the month. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries.
Hi, Genies. It's Scott Fisher, host of Extreme Genes, with an invitation for you to join our brand spanking new Extreme Genes Patrons Club. Now, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is where, for as little as $1 a month, Genies everywhere can take advantage of Extreme Genes rewards, such as early access to our latest podcasts, members-only bonus podcasts, acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, and special monthly live online question and answer sessions with well-known family history experts. Catch visits with genealogy stars such as David Allen Lambert, photo detective Maureen Taylor, DNA expert C.C. Moore, and many other experts and storytellers. If you find yourself craving more stories, more ideas for digging up your dead, more inspiration, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is for you. The rewards start at just $1 a month. Find out more now. Just go to extremegenes.com and click on our special Extreme Genes Patrons Club link at the top right. Or go to patreon.com/extremegenes. You know, it wasn't that long ago that David Allen Lambert reached out to me and said, hey, you got to try this new tool he had just discovered. It's called DNA Painter, and it involves actually mapping out where on your various chromosomes, kind of a map of your chromosomes, where your information came from which particular ancestor. And you do this by matching up DNA results from different people that you match to, and then finding their chromosome map information and just simply copying it into a box, and magically it paints this particular chromosome. Well, at Roots Tech recently, I ran into the guy who's behind this remarkable site. His name is Johnny Pearl. He's in London, England, and he's on with me via Skype. Johnny, how are you?
Good to see you, Scott. How are you today?
I am doing great, my friend, and it's interesting because you made a lot of friends in the business pretty darn fast coming up with this site, didn't you?
I guess I did, yeah. I mean, it's great to make friends. That wasn't the reason I did it, but yeah, it's a nice side effect, isn't it?
Well, why did you do this? What was your interest? Have you been researching your ancestors for some time?
I did it out of pure selfishness. I'd been researching my ancestors for about 10 years, maybe like you and like a lot of people listening. I did so in an obsessive way. When I got into it, I was up until the middle of the night,
yes.
Working on different family trees, wills, documents. I was one of these people. So when I got my DNA done,
You're
I was
one of us, that's all. You're one of us.
Exactly. But when I got my DNA done, I was very hungry for more than I could get. Without really knowing what I was doing, I could see these numbers, which represented the relationship I had with the DNA matches. And I thought, well, what do these mean? And I almost started building it before I really understood any of the science, to be honest. And then as I got going, I kind of learned quite a lot of stuff. Very soon was able to build something quite useful, certainly to me. And then it turned out other people liked it as well, which is great.
Well, it is still, I guess, technically a beta site, right? But it's free.
Yeah. Let's call it a beta site. I mean, when I launched it, I was very aware that it's just me that built it, and there could be problems. There haven't been many problems, but obviously you have a few little glitches here and there.
Sure.
It's been going for, I guess, 6 months or something now.
Yeah.
7 months. So.
How many people have signed on for this?
We recently hit 10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good number.
Yeah, it's a good number and certainly a good way for you to test the system. I think the thing that I was most impressed with was that I was very interested in doing chromosome mapping, and it's kind of a 404 level thing for a lot of people. And I was talking to various experts about how they did it because people would blog about it, and I'd kind of get the feel for what was involved. And it's like, you know what? I don't have time to learn all of that. I mean, it's just there's just so much involved with traditional chromosome mapping. And when David brought your site to my attention, and I saw all you have to do is basically copy and paste the information that you can get on sites like GEDmatch and through MyHeritage, and then just drop it in there, and it paints it automatically. It was like, this is ridiculously easy. I mean, you're quite the simplifier, aren't you?
Well, I'm very pleased that you found it easy. I'm gratified to hear that. It wasn't as easy as it might sound to make it that way. When I first built the site, I think most of the people I showed it to, they had the twin hurdles to get over. One was, what is this and why am I doing it? And the other is, how does it work? I certainly went through quite a few iterations in the first few weeks just to get it to where it is now. And I'm sure it can still improve now, obviously. And I come from a background where I previously have made a living making websites for people where I do have to make them as simple as possible. So I think maybe that helped me along the way.
Well, and maybe we ought to answer that question for people. Why would you want a chromosome paint? And obviously you started this because you wanted to see it, and I will explain some of it from my point of view, but I want to hear from you first.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think that there's two reasons. One of them is meaningful and the other isn't. So the non-meaningful one first is just we're all curious people and we get given these numbers in a table, this chromosome 1 start position 7,850,000. Yeah. What does that mean? I mean, it's a puzzle that I need to work out. So that isn't meaningful in itself, but I just that kind of came from the heart that I want to sort that out. On a more meaningful level, obviously, as genealogists, what we want to do is push our family trees back. We want to try and break those brick walls, and we want to find our ancestors. Anyone who's been doing this for a while will know that you tend to find the most glorious stuff via cousins. If you can connect with a cousin is going to potentially have information that is not in a will, not in any public record.
Exactly.
They might have family photographs, they might have a Bible. They've got that kind of gold that you don't get any other way. And so to connect to the cousin, you have to identify who the cousin is.
Yep.
And this gives you a way of identifying who they are. So in a nutshell, if you start by painting the known matches, so I'm very, very lucky. My father has a half-brother. My mother has a cousin I was able to get to test, and both my parents have tested. So I'm incredibly lucky in the resources I have.
Sure.
But with those people tested, it means when I have a new match comes in, I've been working on mapping my chromosomes for so long that I can narrow down the line that person is from really, really quickly. And so I don't have to search across my entire family tree to figure out where to place them. I can figure out really down to a few lines. I'm not saying I can always solve the puzzles.
Sure.
I mean, more often than not, I can't. But I'm getting there. I feel like I'm getting there.
Well, obviously, most of the people who do the DNA tests, they're looking for the ethnicity results, and they don't post a tree. I mean, over 90% of them. And it's so frustrating because as genealogists, hey, we want to see where do we tie in? And like you say, more often than not, you can't figure that out. But when you see a shared chromosome and you know that you have lots of shared matches, you know that this wasn't a random match. This was a match by descent. And you can actually... what I like about the site is you can project that match over what you already have to kind of get an idea potentially which ancestor this person matches you through. And that's a great help. So as a result of that, have you ever actually been able to reach out to some of these people and get some information from them that helped you break down a brick wall?
Yes and no. I have reached out and got some great information. To date, I personally have never broken through a brick wall. I've broken some sideways. I found out about siblings that I didn't know about. Mm-hmm. And I have a tentative new ancestor name. But in general, what's been great for me is to connect with the cousin. So the very first guy I ever connected with, he's out in the US. I think he's in Oregon. He was the highest DNA match I had who I didn't know about. Huh. And he had a tree. He was very friendly. And we had such an unusual name. We were able to connect. We connected in a tree immediately, somewhere in Germany in the kind of 1840s. And he had a bunch of photos, and he also had some family histories in German, exactly this kind of gold that I was talking about.
Yeah.
That then led me to find out more stuff. So, from the start, I think that's what got me hooked on carrying on building this and making it better, because if I could make more connections like that, then all the better.
Yeah. The website, by the way, once again, is DNApainter.com, and you just go in and set up an account, and then you can start matching people. You find the matches, obviously, through the usual places, as we mentioned, and then you share that information back to DNA Painter, and it begins to mark which side, the father's or the mother's side, comes in on which chromosome. And so it's really quite fun as you put it together because the process is so easy. I guess the bottom line is, though, Johnny, is that we get all of our DNA from our father's side from our father and all from our mother, so that really you have to go back a ways for it to really start having any meaning. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, if you're painting a match, there's no point in painting a parent, for example. Right. Because if you painted a parent, it would just fill out the chromosomes that are already filled out for you. And equally, even some other close relative, like a sibling, obviously, you're each going to have inherited all of each one of your chromosomes from one parent, but you'll have inherited different segments. But that won't show. You'll just have these big lines to say, yep, you match on all of it, because you both got your DNA from the same place, obviously.
But with a half-sibling, you could probably say, well, this had to come then from my paternal grandparents. right?
That's right. So you can use your sibling for a process called inferred matching, which is great. So if you say you had a second cousin that you match with, you might have 8 or 9 segments. And if you then find that your sibling matches some and you don't, and you know where that person came from, then, you can infer, okay, this must have come from the other grandparent, which is great.
And do you actually take material? For instance, we get matches from a brother or sister that we ourselves may not get. Right? And
That's right.
And they might even get segments from somebody we do match where we don't get those same segments. So you can then paint that, recognizing that data, that information still was passed down from that particular couple, even though the match came from a sibling. Would you agree?
You can do that, Scott, but what I provided here is really a kind of a blank canvas to try things out. So there are many ways of using this site. It's extremely flexible, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense that if you wanted to, you could start trying to map the descendants of a particular ancestor, for example. And instead of your ancestors on the right there, you might have descendants, which would be really interesting.
Yeah.
If you've got cousins who've matched. I would say the classic take on how to use DNA Painter is that when you start a profile, it represents you. It represents your DNA kit. And if you then have your brother or your sister test, you probably would want to have another profile for them, and you would use some of that information to help you inform yours. But like I say, there's not too much prescriptiveness here. You can actually do what you like, but the classic way of using it, you wouldn't ever map anyone else's shared matches onto your own profile. It would always be how you compare to someone else. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is just because you're attempting to build up a faithful map of exactly where you got specific bits of your chromosomes from. So if you put your brother's matches onto yours, potentially you're not being true to that. But there's still advantages to doing that, as you say.
Except that you know that information came from that particular couple. So to a certain extent, we're actually mapping the ancestors as well, right?
Sure, yeah. And you could totally do it ancestor ways round as well.
Yeah.
There are many ways to do it, and hopefully many ways to learn things. I mean, it's worth mentioning that what the site's doing is allowing you to kind of store and make notes on the information and visualize it. It isn't really doing anything really magic for you. It's not saying, hey, I've figured out this matches your fourth cousin. It's more about using the information that you have to help you find out more than you know.
He's Johnny Pearl.
Does that make sense?
It does. He's Johnny Pearl. He's the creator of DNApainter.com. It's free. You know, what you need to do is go on, check out the site. It's such an easy thing to do. Then go back and listen to the segment, and a lot of this will make sense to you. And it's a lot of fun. Johnny, thanks for your contribution, and thanks for coming on Extreme Genes. Absolutely amazing stuff.
My pleasure.
And coming up next, she's a World War I widow of America's first flying ace. I'll talk to Ginny Campbell coming up in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
Hey, welcome back to Extreme Genes, America's family history show on ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. This segment is brought to you by LegacyTree.com. Well, many years ago, growing up in Coscob, Connecticut, a little community in the backwoods of Fairfield County, we had a neighbor. And I remember my dad talking about these neighbors. They were actually maybe about a half a mile up the road. And he was a World War I flying ace. His name was Douglas Campbell. And, back in those times, I wasn't really too into history. And I wish I had been, because I would have loved to have talked to him about his experiences. But in recent conversations with the Connecticut State Library and the centennial now, the end of World War I reached out and discovered that Doug's wife, Virginia, Ginny, is still with us. And she was kind enough to accept an invitation to come on the show, a World War I widow, Ginny Campbell. How are you, Ginny? It's great to talk to you after all these years.
This is a wonderful surprise. It's great to talk to you.
I was looking through some of the statistics here about war widows and the cost of war, and it's really quite fascinating because there's a story here about a daughter of an American Civil War soldier who died in 1938. She still gets a pension of $73 a month and veterans benefits. And there are still, as of at least a year or so ago, 16 widows and children of soldiers who fought in the Spanish-American War of 1898. Wow. And the last Civil War vet died at 109 in 1956, and the last Civil War widow died at 93 years old in 2008. But when it comes to World War I, the closest I could find, Ginny, was a Wall Street Journal report from May of 2014, and it said there were 2,000 living World War I widows in the United States. Now, that's 4 years ago. So you are doing very well.
Yeah, I'm grateful. That's for sure.
Well, I remember your husband, Doug, and he was America's first flying ace in World War I. And obviously, your marriage was one of, what do they call it, the winter-spring type marriage, right? He was quite a bit older than you.
Absolutely.
And how did you two meet?
Oh, at a wedding in New York.
In New York, and you just kind of hit it off, and there you go.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Tell us, how did his stature as a World War I flying ace change his life? I mean, for the years following the war, he obviously had associations with Eddie Rickenbacker, the famous flying ace, and Rickenbacker was the number one ace, as I recall, from World War I.
Yeah.
And you must have known him some as well.
Yes, he knew him all his life because they were both in the airline business in New York. So they had lunch together from time to time and never lost touch with each other. Also, he kept in touch with some of his best buddies of World War I. When he retired, then he had time, that we could go visit them, one in South Carolina. And, during his working life, he was so busy that his World War I part of his life wasn't a part of my life very much until he retired.
Of course.
Then that was about the time of the 50th anniversary. And so all these fans were getting the World War I people together to talk. And so that's when he had time to put his letters together and be interviewed and review the events at that time and more fully acquaint me with it, because when he was working and we were raising 3 kids, we weren't talking about World War I.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Life had long moved on. But let's talk about that World War I period in his life. It's been 100 years now since the end of the war. What was the story that Doug told the most about his days as a flyboy?
Well, when people asked him questions, he usually started his spiel with, "These eagles have turned into old buzzards." Well, everything was so unique about the training of that first group of people. He and his friends from Harvard having a hard time finding where the head of the Air Corps was in Washington. One room somewhere, part of the Signal Corps or something,
Now, he signed up as a volunteer, as I recall, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to sign up, which he did before he graduated from Harvard, in his senior year. And everybody was dying to go somewhere in the service, and Harvard closed early. Those guys, senior class men, just disappeared to volunteer.
So had he learned to fly prior to this, or did they train him from scratch?
No, he had no flying training in the United States. That first group was sent over, and he got his training rather informally at Issoudun, where the French had a flying field.
And I recall seeing at some point or another, because I've over the years started collecting history, there was a lithograph, and the lithograph was of your husband, Doug Campbell, making another victory over a German plane, and something about the pilot standing up and saluting him. Do you know something about that story?
I never heard that.
Okay.
That sounds like one of those things that journalists make up.
It could be. Now, it was interesting, too, because as I've looked into this stuff, the pilots didn't call them kills. They called them victories.
Yeah.
Because I guess the idea was that they weren't shooting at the pilots. They were shooting at the planes.
Yeah, right.
And so he won the Distinguished Service Cross and the Oak Leaf Cluster for bravery and combat in France. He got the Croix de Guerre from the French with a palm from the French military. And then he was wounded at one point, right?
He was at the front really very short time, a matter of weeks.
Really?
When we got 5 victories, and the 6th one he was injured.
I see. And it was
which led to him being sent to a hospital. He got a bullet down his spine, fortunately superficial, and didn't damage the wrong place.
Right.
But then, dying to get back to his squadron, he was sent by the government back to the United States for these war bond rallies that go on all over the place.
Was he something of a celebrity here in the United States then when he was doing the war bond rallies?
Oh, yeah. There were articles in newspapers all over.
But he did eventually wind up back with his squadron.
He resented every minute of that and was always trying to get released to go back. And he was on the ship going back to France when the armistice was signed.
I see. So he wound up with 6 victories, and that was it. 6
victories, and that was it, yeah.
Yeah, and then he was done. So with this 100th anniversary here, how's that affected your life, Ginny? Are you hearing from more people?
No, I can't. I don't think so. I shouldn't be alive, you see, so nobody...
So they don't know that you're there, right?
I don't know, yeah.
Well, could I ask your age?
I'm 95.
95. I think that's worth bragging about.
Well, I don't.
Well, you had a great husband and obviously did some great things for the country. And I just wish I'd visited with him more when I was a kid. But, you know, as a kid, you're thinking about your future. You're not thinking about anybody's past.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't have taken time to do that. There were other things that were much more important because you were a kid, you know?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny because, I mean, my whole life is centered around history and family history now. And I just look at that
exciting.
It is. It's fun. Yeah. It's interesting. And talking to you is fascinating. Hey, I so appreciate your taking the time to chat. And I'm glad to know that you're enjoying your life and you're in good health and the kids are doing well. And I hope you enjoy the 100th anniversary of the armistice.
Well, I tell you, Doug would be proud of you because he thought history was so important for everybody to know. And unfortunately, you kids lived through an era when history sort of got sidelined in high school and college, you know. So he'd be proud of you.
Well, that's very kind of you to say.
Okay.
Ginny, she's Ginny Campbell. She is a World War I widow. She is the former wife of Douglas Campbell, who is a World War I flying ace. 6 victories in World War I, close friend of Eddie Rickenbacker in the 94th Aero Squadron. Ginny, it's been just a delight to talk to you, and good health, and have a great summer.
Oh, thank you, Scott.
Unbelievable. Let's talk preservation next on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Legacy Tree Genealogist is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've been working with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins or heirs to property. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476. Call now or register online to get a free estimate. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries. LegacyTree.com.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Hi, Genies. It's Scott Fisher, host of Extreme Genes, with an invitation for you to join our brand spanking new Extreme Genes Patrons Club. Now, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is where, for as little as $1 a month, Genies everywhere can take advantage of Extreme Genes rewards, such as early access to our latest podcasts, members-only bonus podcasts, acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, and special monthly live online question and answer sessions with well-known family history experts. Catch visits with genealogy stars such as David Allen Lambert, photo detective Maureen Taylor, DNA expert C.C. Moore, and many other experts and storytellers. If you find yourself craving more stories, more ideas for digging up your dead, more inspiration, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is for you. The rewards start at just $1 a month. Find out more now. Just go to extremegenes.com and click on our special Extreme Genes Patrons Club link at the top right. Or go to patreon.com/extremegenes. And welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. Time to talk preservation with Tom Perry from tmcplace.com, our preservation authority. How are you, Tommy?
Super.
All right, we got a great one here, a great email from Jamie Anderson, and she says, Tom, you helped me choose a scanner at Roots Tech, an Epson V550, with which to scan my thousands of 35mm color negatives. It is great, but I have a question about the best settings to choose from to get just enough and not too much information. She's thinking correctly here.
Exactly.
She said, I plan on making a digital scrapbook that I've printed also, and the photos will all remain about 4x6 actual size. The setting choices I have that confuse me are the resolution and the target size. And we see this pretty much on all kinds of scanners, right, Tom?
Absolutely.
And she says, I remember you said to scan in at 2400 DPI because you can always make it smaller, right? But I am not sure about the target size. If I choose the original size, the negative size, the files are nice and small, but can they be enlarged to 4x6 size in the future? Thanks, Jamie.
Absolutely, yes. That's a short answer.
Yeah, well, at 2400 DPI, you can actually go much bigger than that.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing that we've talked about this on episode after episode is you need to find out what your end use is, what your final thing is, which she said she's going to make a digital file, and also she wants to print them no bigger than 4x6. The digital file doesn't matter because it can be really, really small. It's going to look fine on a computer. But when you start getting into printing, that's when you kind of run into some problems. But like if she's going to have 4x6s, 2400 is overkill.
Sure.
And it depends. What are you going to do? Are you going to spend some time that you want to go in and clean them up and color correct them and, fix the mole on the face or take the tear out or a little blip in the negative that's not right?
Well, that's plastic surgery, Tom.
Exactly. And that's what we call it Photoshop. Some people call it plastic surgery.
There you go.
And it's amazing what you can do with that. But it depends what tools you're going to want. If you just want to say, hey, I just want to get these things scanned, I want to make a print of them, I want to have my book, there's nothing else I want to do with them, nobody in my family is interested in doing them, then I wouldn't go to that huge of a scanning. 2400 is overkill. Go to @AskTomP on Twitter, and I actually have a chart there that will show you this is what size your original is, this is what your target is going to be, this is the resolution I recommend, and then I always go one higher.
Okay.
And that way you should be fine. If there's any chance somebody's going to go to the other ones and need to do something more detailed, then that's fine. But go through and separate your negatives. Some of them are going to be really, really important, that it's that special picture of Aunt Ethel or, Grandma or whatever that you really want to keep and do special things with. So scan that one at 2400 DPI or whatever you want. But a lot of them are, I want this picture. It's kind of nice, but I'm never really going to do anything. It's more like, I want to keep it, but I'm probably never going to look at it again. Put those in a separate pile and scan those at a smaller DPI unless you have tons of time to do everything. There's never a mistake about overkill like you just mentioned because you always go smaller. It depends what your time is. If time's a problem, if money's a problem, if you don't have the ability to do all the touch-up yourself, then you need us or somebody like us to do it for you. What's your budget? Then you need to decide what's going to happen. So what's your goal? What overall is the direction you want to go?
Mm-hmm. There's an actual setting for target size on these scanners.
Absolutely. And that's where you want to be careful. Like she said, she can set it the same size as the original. I would never do that for any kind of a photo that's under about a 3x5 and maybe even under a 5x7. Because if you do it the size of a negative, a 35 millimeter negative, that's almost postage stamp size, and that's really, really small. And you're never going to be able to get anything decent out of that. You always want to go a target size at least 3x4 to 5x7, depending on how much memory you have and what you want to do. But target size for the original, I would never go that small.
All right. As always, great advice, Tom, and thanks so much, Jamie, for the email. We'll have another question coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities, and it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. We are back for our final segment of Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. That's Tom Perry over there. Wave to them, Tom.
Hey!
From not so loud. From TMCPlace.com, he's our preservation authority. During the break, Tom, we were talking about Jamie's email and question about the Epson V550, and you wanted to add something to this.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important to remember when you're scanning, especially if you want to do some enhancements to it, she asked about different settings. I would turn all your settings off. I would scan what we call a virgin scan, which you're not doing color correction, you're not doing grain reduction, you're not using digital ice, you're not doing any of these things. So you get as clean of a scan as you can. Then once you get that, go back to the ones that you want to work on and run those through, like Digital Ice that she mentioned, which is a great program, and it'll go and do all kinds of fun things for you. But if you do that on the onset and it kind of does something a little bit different than what you wanted done, you can't undo it. Just like in the old days when you would get a photo back that you took to Photomat or someplace and you're looking at your house and you're thinking, my house wasn't that shade of yellow. Yeah. But they don't know. There's a person sitting there looking at your pictures, and if there's not somebody with flesh tones, they know, okay, this is flesh tones, or this is this tone or this tone, they're not going to know what shade of yellow your house was, so you're going to have things come back bad. That's why I always do the virgin capture, no settings, and unless you just want to do down and dirty, I don't want to play with this, I just want to get the best I can right now, and rock and roll and go that way, you can. However, if you're bat scanning this way, you're going to have some stuff that's too bright, some stuff that's too soft, some stuff that's too grainy, some stuff that's too whatever by doing a bat scan.
So then you have to fix everything, basically, right?
Exactly. So that's why I would never do bat scans unless you're on a virgin setting. Then go back and start with your most important pictures and work on them and just get as much as you can done. Don't get overwhelmed. Just take that first step and do that first one and rock and roll from there.
Because then you've got it all in a folder somewhere.
Exactly. And you can get it, your kids can get it, your grandkids can do it. Don't worry about getting overwhelmed. Just get them scanned now.
All right. Ow, boy, he's loud today. All right, another email here. Question from Reverend Peter Preble. He says, greetings. I have 8 rolls of 8mm film I would like to have transferred to DVD. Can I mail it to you?
Oh, absolutely. We have people around the globe mail us stuff also. But like I've mentioned in episodes before, if you've got somebody in your neighborhood that does it, that's good quality, get it done locally. I mean, I love to have you send stuff. You know, I appreciate your business. However, you know, if you can get it done locally, support your local economy. And there's a group of transfer services like us. It's called Home Video Studio. You can go to homevideostudio.com, and they have locations across the country. And check out one of those. You might have one of those within a driving distance. You might be going on vacation someplace where you're close to one. And they do a wonderful job. They do a great job. I've been to their conventions, met a lot of their people that are really great people. If you have one in your neighborhood, you know, ask the questions that we've told you in archive shows, what questions to ask. Make sure they ask the right questions, because everybody isn't going to be perfect. And if you have a specific one in Dothan, Alabama, and this is a place, let me know, and I'll talk to some other franchisees and find out if they're a good one to go to and rock and roll. But don't pick somebody just because of their name. But this gives you a good starting point to see if there's a home video studio in your area, and most of them do an absolutely awesome job.
And then if they want to ship it to you, of course, we've got all the steps for doing that with the bubble wrap and the box within the box. But how do they get it to you, Tom?
Exactly. They can go to our website, go to transferduplication.com or tmcplace.com, and we've got our new address there, and everything's where you can just send it to us. We have our phone number. If you have questions, we'll take care of it any way you need. We'll hold your hand through the whole process and make it a really pleasant experience for you.
All right. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll see you again next week.
Sounds good.
All right. And that's our show for this week. Thanks so much for joining us. We want to thank our guests, and we want to thank you for being a part of the program, too. And we're glad for the questions. You can always ask Tom questions at AskTom@tmcplace.com, or you can post them on his Twitter page. You can go to @AskTomP. And don't forget, by the way, sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. It is absolutely free at ExtremeGenes.com. Talk to you again next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.